part 3. I was able to get through parts 1 and 2 on the first presentation, so that was good. Now, part 3 is a little dense because we're going to be going into parts of the brain and how language connects there. And so this is going to be, if I get through all of part 3, I will be surprised. My hope is to get through at least part 3, or a good halfway through part 3 would be pretty good. Keith, if you could put me on the clock for the time. And then again, as with all the presentations, I am going to pull all of you in. So it's not a sit and get. So when we are sharing, please allow each other to share fully. All of what you have to share is valuable, especially your view or your position on what is shared is valuable. So I want initially all who did not share on the last run to share this time. I want you to be the first to share as we go through this part of it. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, going to be introducing some terminology here, and making some connections about how we're using language, and we're gonna make all of this connect. Thus far, all of the presentations that the instructors have presented have connected to in some way, shape, or form. So we want to hold true to that. So as we go down this road, so I first want to reflect on what we have gone over thus far. So learning without reflection is a waste. Reflection without learning is dangerous. So we don't want to let any of what we are gaining to get away from us. Okay. So who could remember the coin definition of social engineering that was offered earlier, last presentation?
I gotta put the food up, so you can be patient with me.
Can somebody mute? Somebody is on talking about something. Somebody remember?
I recalled it as the socialization. I forgot the phrase that you used exactly, but pretty much giving self-knowledge so that a person can behave in a way that connects them to themselves and others.
Okay. All right, cool, good. Anybody else? Thank you for that, sir.
Aaron is waiting to get into the call.
I got her.
Okay.
Peace, family. Thank you.
Somebody else offer the coin definition that was offered last week? Somebody that has not shared yet. Come on, the first person took us like 3/4 of the way there. Somebody can offer a fourth, right? Get us all the way there. I need to call somebody. Darren, did you share? Darren,
Sorry, what'd you say, instructor?
the definition that was offered last week, the coin definition. Remember, there were definitions that were offered, two that were diametrically opposed to each other, and then we coined a phrase or a definition was coined. Bird took us 3/4 of the way there. We need another fourth to get us all the way there.
1 second, I'm going through my notes.
Yep, go through your notes. Very good. And please, guys, take out your notes. This is interactive. It's not gonna be a sit and get. I'm gonna be calling on you. This is important for you to know this. So while we're waiting for the other fourth, the rest of you, please take out your notes. It's my hope that you're taking notes.
I thought I heard somebody reading the definition earlier.
Yep. Does anybody have it?
Yeah, I have it pulled up. I can read it if you want me to.
Go ahead, Bird.
Yeah. So social engineering, as defined by Dr. Glass, Instructor Andre, is to socialize and align a proper relationship with self, universal alignment with self and kind, facilitating guidance to self-mastery, godship.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that. Please, if you don't have that, please make that a part of your notes, because it's important to know what our role is, or what our roles are as instructors, as we're intervening in your lives. We're intervening in everybody's lives the way that we are. So it's very important for you to know how we're doing that and hold us true to that definition. Also, we offer we unpack the mantra definition, a mind tool. Another important term, involution, involved in the creation of. And then here, you create your own reality.
That evolution was interesting because I was looking through the definitions of evolution, and one of them was a grammar definition. You know, how we're talking about everything is the language and the power of language, and it was talking about a clause that's put between a subject and a verb, you know, and I was like, all right, that's pretty, you know, it's pretty dope, because when you go inside yourself, like I said, you're the subject, the self is the subject, and you're putting that thought in between and the action that's going to happen. And so,
Right.
yeah, some powerful stuff y'all was talking about.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we just opening ourselves up to be proper vehicles of that, brother. I mean, we're all unfolding in a way that, especially Grandmaster has put us on this path, and you never know how deep what has been placed on you starts to break up in you. Uh, it all has hit us in a number of ways that, man, it's still unfolding. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes, sir. The world and the words that gives rise to your creation is, and I always say this, power is language sensitive. So we're going to talk a lot about, you know, how the language that we use, and especially in light, Berg, as you can attest to, how instructor is putting us, aligning us with a common language.
Ashe.
Give rise to the power. So this is right in line with that, and then how that works. That's good stuff. Now, here, open up with a warning, because, especially here in what we are unpacking here. Once you're exposed to this particular content, especially as it relates to the mind and your awareness, it automatically facilitates accountability, whether you are aware of it or not. It's almost like something has been pricked in your subconscious, and we'll talk a lot about the subconscious as we go down this path, and just in what you're taking in, whether you are aware of it or not aware of it. Okay. Aaron, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Could you read that slide that's in front of you now?
Okay. So to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. It is only through knowing who and what you are will you ever be in alignment with your purpose. Know thyself. How long have you had your brain? How much do you know about it?
Okay. So that's a question that I have asked. Now, I have done some. I'm a consultant for Grand Valley State. And what I do for Grand Valley is I facilitate their professional developments for schools that they're bringing on under their charter. And one of the professional developments that I lead is about the brain and the behavior, especially behavior as it relates to classroom management and building culture in a school. So this is one of the questions that I ask. I'll say, well, how much do you know about your brain? Do you really know and understand how it works? And I wanted to leave this part of the presentation off in the same way. So I'm putting that question out to you guys. First, how long have you had it? And you would say, well, shit, I'm 34, so I guess I've had it for 34 years. How much do you know about it in the 34 years that you've had it? Just think about that. How much do you actually know about your brain and how it works? Now, if you know a lot about it, I want you to do some sharing. So share out. Tell me how much you know about it.
Peace. I've had my brain for about, if I'm 21, you said the brain was the first thing that's developed, I'm gonna add 9 months. So I'm gonna say 21 years and 9 months.
There you go.
I know it's I know it's two hemispheres to the brain.
Right.
The right actually controls our left hand. So the right is the creativity side, and then the left is the logical side.
Okay.
And then what connects the two is your corpus callosum. So the thicker that your corpus callosum is, the more connections that you're able to make between certain things that we perceive. Like a lot of geniuses like Einstein had just huge corpus callosums. And I know the cerebrum is the back of the brain. The pituitary gland is under the thalamus or the hypothalamus.
Okay.
And then the pineal gland is in the middle of the brain, which is the third eye. And it's that's what helps us perceive the waves that bounce back down from the ionosphere to Earth.
Okay. Good.
Yep. Oh, your cortex, cerebral cortex is the top. So like the whole entire top of the brain is the cerebral cortex.
Okay, good. Wow. Okay, that's good. You've done better, Em. You've done better than most of the teachers that I've serviced. For real, you was like, you went through that bad boy. I asked teachers this and they don't even know. Good, man. That's good stuff.
Appreciate it. I've been taking notes.
Yes, sir. Good. Anybody else?
Man's like a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hard, tough act to follow.
Right.
I learned some offbeat stuff about the brain in itself. I learned that I was studying some brain trauma, and that you don't need the corpus callosum is not even necessary to communicate between the two hemispheres, because they did a procedure on a person who was suffering some seizures, and they had to separate it, and the brain was still able to communicate without the actual tissue fiber.
Okay.
And then people who had, misshaped or misformed brains, they realized that speech areas and audio areas, they relocated to different parts that they weren't usually in the brain.
Okay.
And so it's showing that these locations aren't hardwired, they can be moved. And of course, understanding the difference between intelligence and brain size is not correlated, that it's about the folds and the things like that. But those are some of the interesting things I learned that are kind of outside the traditional thought of the brain.
Okay. Good.
Well, I'm quite amazed here, instructor, because I was thinking about it from a whole different perspective in regards to tell me about your brain. What you know about it. I think
Right.
everybody's seeing it taking this scientific path, and I'm like, whoa, okay. Some of these terms, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? But I get it. I was thinking about it more so about I think what I'm thinking about is more from the thought perspective as opposed to the actual brain, because what I understand about what I understand about the brain is that thought comes from a different place. The brain and thought are two different things. The brain is actually the functionality of it, and thought actually scientifically they don't really know where thought comes from. And that's been proven in psychiatric studies, that thought is stemmed from a different source, and the brain just, the thought implants itself in the brain, but the brain itself is just a muscle. So that's kind of what I know about my brain.
Okay.
And I've had my brain for almost 33. Well, what month is it? We're in the third month. We're in the third month. So 30. Oh God, 30. damn, I'm having a difficult time with math here right now. So my birthday is April 29th, so I'll be 33 then plus 9 months. So I'm 32, whatever.
He just wants to say that he's 33, but I'm 32 now.
Whatever. Anyway, so for all them times, that's what I know about my brain as of right now. And I also have difficulty, I think within my brain, I have difficulty, not difficulty, but I desire, I know that my in thought process, I want this really elaborate, creative world. However, I struggle sometimes in my thoughts with the security oriented side of our existence, security and safety, and how am I paying these bills, and that creates a struggle sometimes with me wanting to live creatively, and you know, the right side versus the left side of the brain, etc.
Oh, got you. All right.
I wanted to share also, hey everyone, it's Gigi.
Hey, Gigi.
Well, you all have really humbled me and put my degree to shame, because I studied brain behavior and cognitive science.
Okay.
And I think what I know about the brain is also humbling in that there's so much that we don't know. Like, as many facts as we can spit off, there's like infinite more things that we don't know about the brain.
Right.
And I'm really interested in like learning and memory and language too, and perception. So like just how faulty our memory truly is. And like, I like learning about language because it opens the perception of worlds. Like, for example, indigenous cultures of Alaska, for example, have like so many words for snow, and it's because, you know, they need to know all these different words for snow. So I think their perception is different about snow, for example, or like some cultures have more words for different colors. So it's like, are they perceiving things differently? But yeah, there's a lot I don't know.
Good. All right. Thank you for sharing. So part of, you know, as I know all of you've heard instructor Aku say this a lot. He was like, you know, he refers to the brain as a supercomputer. And so what I did was I posed a question: is the brain a supercomputer, an antenna, or both? And going down this particular part of it, and how the brain actually processes language. So at the end of this, or towards the end of this, we're going to discern, going back to what Theo offered before, about thought and where that originates, and does it originate in the brain? So I'm going to go down that path as well, just in helping us really learn more about who and what we are. So a part of now the journey, and as we go down this path, is discerning the answer to this particular question, because there are some thoughts on both sides of this. So first, I want to offer going back to the mantra and keeping this at the forefront of, you know, what we're talking about. Mantra being a mind tool. So really haven't lost sight of that, and how we're going to unfold how mantras can actually be used to develop mind and open other realms of thought and dimensions, if you will. So haven't lost sight of that, but there's a lot of groundwork that I like to cover in that, so that you'll know that in the use of mantras, in the use of this mind tool, it's not spooky. It's not something that is nebulous, that we don't know, how it works and what it means and this, that, and the other. As Grandmasters has always cautioned us to make it as plain as possible and bring it within the scope of how we're able to digest and really deal with it in order for us to draw true power from it. If it's spooky or ethereal or nebulous, we really can't gain any power from it because we don't understand, how it works. The more we understand about how it works, the greater we're able to realize and recognize the power that we can glean from it. And we'll really discern or come to a realization of how powerful we are. So I didn't want to go too far. And then he said, well, dang, why is he talking about brain? And I thought he was going to be talking about mantras. But all of this is laying, the foundation so that when we get to mantras and mantra usage, you'll really be able to understand how the brain is interpreting these signals that we send to it and how it lends itself to creating our own realities. So there's a rhyme and reason to why I'm going down this path. Okay. So here's the brain, and here are the areas of the brain that specifically deal with or help us process language. Could someone read those areas there for me, please?
You got the Broca's area,
Uh-huh.
the Wernicke's area.
Wernicke, yep.
Wernicke's area. You got the motor cortex, and then the arcuate, fasciculus.
Yes, that's good enough. Fasciculus. Yeah, that.
Cool.
And these are areas of the brain that are specific in their processing language. So let's talk about each part of that. So Emerson, could you read that part for us, please?
Yep. So the Broca's area is where we formulate speech in the area of the brain that sends motor instructions to the motor cortex.
Good.
And then the Wernicke's area involves speech processing and the understanding of the language.
Good.
Okay. And then a white matter tract that connects the Broca and Wernicke areas throughout the brain lobes is responsible for the coordination of comprehensive speech.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I want you to take in these two slides here. Now, this area here is the reticular activating system. So I showed two slides here, and it's side by side. You're going to see the pineal gland here, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, and how it's connected to the spinal cord here. So I want you to just take in those parts that this particular part or this particular system is responsible for. So just take a minute, and if you needed to note any of what we had just gone over, please, I can go back a because this is important for you to be able to understand this.
Instructor, there were four areas that a slide with 4 areas. There, the Broca's area, the Wernicke's area, the motor cortex, and what was, I think it was 4 areas that you mentioned. What was the other?
Yep, I can go right back to them.
Oh yeah, the difficult one.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And the last one, the last one is the white matter, that track that connects both of them. The last one here, the acute facilis, that's that white track that connects both, that have them both speaking to each other. That white matter here, it connects both of them together. Okay. Okay, so I want to give you guys a chance to take some of this in. So this area helps consciousness. It puts together the internal world. It's key in the sensory processes. It alerts the higher brain when important messages are received, or it filters out messaging. So this part of the brain actually acts as a filter, because your brain takes in so much that this part of the brain actually filters out, so you won't go into like overload, right? It's also responsible for fight or flight responses. Now this is, I have this in red because this is, as instructors, this is the part of the brain that we're actually responsible for training. So that's why I have this one in red. It's also responsible for mind-body connections. It orchestrates levels of consciousness. It's responsible for focusing. It's also responsible for self-perception. This is a very crucial part of the brain. Now, it's one other slide in here. I wanted to put this slide in here, but as Instructor Cedric stated, there's just so much as you're putting these presentations together that you're like, man, what do I leave out, or what do I bring in? I think I've added this, I've added the slide along the way, but just in case that I don't have that slide in here, I want to mention our ancestors referred to this part of the brain as the eye of Ra. It's actually, man, and I think I'll show it later because it's so key that our ancestors were on top of this way before we even knew what we had in our head. So I think I did have a picture of it, but it's important for me to actually say that to you, and I'll show it to you at a later date. But I wanted to put it here in a side by side, but for some reason it didn't fit in here. but I wanted to share with you that our ancestors refer to this part of the brain as the eye of Ra. Now, also, let me have someone read this slide for me, please.
Writing your goals down in your own handwriting has a powerful effect on your subconscious mind. You extend your dreams from thought into the physical.
Okay. Very, very important. And it's not so much as typing, it's the very act of writing. In the schools that I have run, particularly students who are challenged in remembering information, one thing that I have always suggested and to schools is to have students journal their thoughts. Very important because the very act of writing activates this part of the brain. And it helps and it directs your subconscious or parts of your conscious mind of what is important to be focused on. Noting in some of the classes, especially in the instructor's class, I always have anyone that's participating in the instructional class to bring a journal. All of the instructors have journals and they write down as that's a part of the practice. We all have journals. We all journal. When instructor Cedric is up front teaching, I'm sitting journaling or writing down what he's talking about. Same thing when instructor Keith is up or when any of the instructors are up front. I'm down writing in my journal or taking notes of what they're offering, what is generating thoughts in me, and to what I can carry, what I can't carry, or if I have questions, I'm writing down those questions and all of those things to help me focus on what's unfolding in me as they're talking. So I'll just take a note, or as you can see, anyone sitting in those classes, they're taking notes and the like, particularly activating this part of the brain. Now, could someone get this slide for me, please?
He says, creating sensory files in the brain, visualization and sensualization.
Okay.
Says, emotions are good servants, but poor masters. Grandmaster Kajana.
And this, I had, and it's funny how I actually came about this is my wife was listening to the last presentation. And I'm always asking for feedback, just as in this one. I'm going to ask for feedback as to what could have made this presentation even better. So when I asked my wife for feedback, she brought this up. She said, well, you know, you've always talked about visualization and how you create files in the brain. Why didn't you share that? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Didn't even think about going in that direction. But it also made me think about what Grandmaster said about emotions being good servants and poor masters. and how you can actually use that to have an emotion serve as a good servant but a poor master. We talked about that in the the virtual class just last week, having a thought and having the emotion fuel the thought of a sober mind without being drunk with emotion. So wanted to point to two parts of the brain that actually helps with us realizing this axiom. Because when I was made to think about this, I was like, well, what part of the brain actually allow us to have the emotions serve as a good servant and not really go to the front part of the brain, which is the frontal cortex. You keep it here centered in these two parts of the brain to help us first see. And if you see the back of the brain that's shaded in black, that's the occipital lobe that helps you with visualization. And these two parts actually help you bring what you see and help you create a file in the brain for what you're actually seeing. So these two parts of the brain are actually key in helping you actually get to this axiom that Grandmaster has so eloquently has given us.
Excuse me, instructor.
Yes.
Did you say fueling a thought without being drunk with emotion?
Without
Or
being
how did you
drunk
word that?
with emotion, yes.
Without. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is depending on the intensity of the emotion, it actually shuts down the prefrontal cortex, and you're operating on the reptilian brain, or the back part of the brain that's primarily responsible for fight or flight. And you are not actually thinking rationally, you're just being driven emotionally. So that's why I use that terminology, drunk with emotion. Okay. Could someone else who has not participated yet read this particular slide for me, please?
Yes, instructor. Peace.
Please.
Language, how the body responds to words. Why should you watch your thoughts? Emotions. Energy in motion can be used to manifest desired effects on the body and or materialize anything in this construct by putting the body in motion to accomplish the input and or attracting other energies or ions to accomplish the desired input. The senses of the body are housed next to the motor cortex, which is responsible for initiating the movement of the body and or attracting other ions.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. What does that mean? Let's take a minute. Just think about that, because that was a lot. What does that mean?
I remember training with a little boy. We were doing multiples, and he was one of the attackers, and he got hit when he tried to attack the person doing multiples, and he got hit pretty hard in the nose, and he started crying. And Instructor Yak came up to him, and he said, "Hey, I know that hurts." He said, "Take that energy and he put him in the middle of the circle, and he said, take that energy and use it. And that little boy was flying around the room. I mean, he was crying, snot was running down his nose, but he took all that energy and he used it to get the desired effect. And that's what I take from that passage at the bottom.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good example. And that's how all times we're taught or trained to use those emotions. Rather than let those emotions fold us and buckle us, we take the emotions and put that energy to work to serve us. Good example. Anybody else?
Peace, family. I was talking to a client today about changing his behavior, and he asked, was there anything that he could do to aid him in getting things done outside of like just the idea of doing it, even if he didn't feel like it. And I told him meditation, and the reason that I gave him for meditation was because emotions are energy in motion. So when you bask in these emotions and you evoke the emotion of something happening, whatever it is that you desire or whatever it is that you want to happen, your body does not know the difference between it being an actual physical experience and it being an internal experience. So it produce the chemicals in the pathways to actually get those things done as if they've been happening all along and as if they've already happened.
Good. Wow. That's good work.
Peace, instructor, peace, family.
Yes.
I was really paying attention to the paragraph, and well, really all of it, but really like highlighted certain areas, you know, and which ways, you know, I would attract other energies or ions to accomplish the desired input, right? I was thinking about that in relation to language, because it would make one hypersensitive to what it is that they even say, because, you know, I literally would attract, you know, and bring to me what it is that I say. So you have to be wise, or just, I don't know, tread lightly. If, I don't know, you shouldn't have to tread lightly. Just say what you say, but don't, you know, talk any garbage, because you're gonna end up wrapping yourself up in something you don't got no business doing. So that's why, you know, I just really was paying attention to that portion and honing in, like, yes, the physical body, like just in the sentence before, like, you know, putting your physical body in motion or your actual body in motion, but without you even having to do things, you could work to do certain, like something a certain way, but and what you say, what you even may even think without even having to say will probably walk itself right to you. So just be wary, like, you know, so, but that was just interesting. I was really just, you know, interested in seeing that. I pulled a lot from that little portion in itself.
Oh yeah, that was something key to pull. And you know, I think you alluded to or implied an example of that. And one thing that I can offer here, or just listening to someone say, listening to the language that people use, they'll say something like, damn, you know, this always happens to me. Every time I do X, Y, and Z, this always happens to me.
Right.
And they will say something always happens to them, and they will be pointing to a negative event happening. And because their mind puts something out there that it always happens, the ions, which the energies that are, you know, the frequencies that are in the air, you will automatically attract those things that you say always happens to you. And I said to this person, because you say it always happens to you, it will. You're attracting it to you. because you said that it always happens to you every time. You need to stop saying that. So what you said at the top, you said you need to be careful in what it is that you do say, especially about yourself, because as it is stated here, your brain actually attracts that to you. And as we go further down here, when we go further down this path, at the top of it, stating is the brain a computer, is the brain an antenna, or is the brain both? So this is kind of like setting this up when you're talking about the energies that you put out there and how it has a direct impact on the motor part of your brain. The motor part of your brain actually starts to working based on what you say. The motor part of your brain actually is put in motion based on what you say. As we alluded to earlier in this presentation, the motor cortex is responsible for initiating the movement of the body or attracting other ions. So if you yourself lack what is needed or what you say you need, you will attract another energy field that will give you that which you say you needed or wanted. And that could be another person. That could be another person. Okay, this very important. So what you said at the top, saying, you know, and just at the top of this slide, it said, why should you watch your thoughts? Is key here. You should be mindful of your thoughts. Be vigilant about what you're thinking about, especially as it relates to yourself.
Instructor.
Yeah.
Peace. It's interesting that you said, why should you watch your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that just stuck out to me just then. It's like as in visually seeing your thoughts.
Yes.
You know, past just being aware of it, but actually, you know, like you said in the last slide, the visualization and sensationalization. Anyway, just curious.
Yeah.
And I had a couple questions about this slide that you have up personally. You said you said when you're thinking about it, write it down. Will these parts of the brain, like if you're struggling with vision or posture or smell, speech, etc., whatever emotions, hearing, do these parts of the brain will they hurt? You know what I mean? Like if we're, you know, meditation, we focus in, you know, what we're focusing in during our meditations, and then we begin to notice that these particular parts of our brain, I'm not going to assume, but, you know, these parts of the brain, will they hurt like that? Will they begin to, can we recognize that, all right, well, my brain, my head is hurting in the front, lower, just above my eyes, you know, is that related to smell or speech?
Okay, good question. If I'm understanding your question. So the brain in and of itself cannot feel pain. They can actually crack open your head and split it, right? And start prodding around in your head, and you won't feel the pain. You will feel sensations, right? But not necessarily pain. So what the brain picks up, and it'll signal other parts of either other parts of your body to hurt or
Mm.
or things of that nature, other parts of your face, or but the brain itself can't feel pain.
Mm.
So when you're having a headache,
Right.
it's something else that's hurting. It's not the brain itself,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually mind blowing. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, or if I misspeak or say something that's a little off, let me know. Please.
I have
Peace,
one.
Go ahead.
instructor.
Uh-oh.
Peace. Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to offer a couple things based on that recent share with the watch, the watching your thoughts. Beyond that, a watch is also a clock, which can be used to tell time. And understand that there's a time and a place for word usage. So we have all these wonderful words that we have at our disposal to use for self-empowerment or negate. And there's a time for those things when it's good to be used, or it'll be advantageous to use them, whether it's negative or positive. You just have to know what time it is. So that word watch, once again, is it's a very big word in the context of what we're talking about. The second thing I wanted to share or build on was the question about the pain in those areas of the brain where there may be some deficiency. I think in that area, the work of Dr. Jewel Pookrum could be of some benefit, because she wrote a book about the 7 circuits of the brain and their relationship to the vitamins and minerals that we intake. And if we're deficient in any of these vitamins, minerals, elements, some of the lobes or circuits of the brain could be deficient or could be, could not be operating optimally because we're in our American diets, the primary and things like that, high starch and just a lot of things that are vitamin and mineral deficient. It leaves our bodies that same kind of deficiency, and with that minerals and vitamins in your brain, there's some things that may not work as optimally as we would like them to. So there's a direct relationship between these deficiencies and things like Alzheimer's and dementia, memory, etc. So it's important to make sure that we're taking in the proper vitamins and nutrients for the proper optimization of the brain. It may not be a physical pain that we're feeling in the brain, but there are functions and hormones and things that don't necessarily work at their optimum when we're not properly feeding and hydrating ourselves.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add that into the conversation as well.
Yeah, that's very important, especially hydration, in that your brain is 75% water. And when you are not properly hydrated, that's the first signal that your brain gets. You start hallucinating and sluggish and all of those things. So that's a good point. Thank you for that. Someone had something else there too.
I did.
Go
Looking.
ahead.
Okay. Going back to when you gave the example of someone who says this always happens to me.
Right.
Okay. I have uh, a challenge with Allende when it comes to that, and just wanted to see, possibly, because this is his favorite phrase when it comes to dealing with anyone on the outside, like any situation he goes in.
Right.
Um, when it comes to adults or other children, he always find himself in a bullied situation, eh, no matter where he goes, any school, any play area, anything. And no matter how much I empower him and tell him, no, it does not, you can change this. You have the power to change this. He already has his mind set. And um, I'm not sure if I'm not saying the right thing or it just doing my best to have him think differently, feel differently about it, and show him how powerful he is and he has the power to change that and change the words that he uses. So, how do we support children that uh, go through this and feels like, and I've heard other children say it as well, but how do we support children with this?
A good question. Um, I had a student who had the very same problem. A young lady would always frame herself as a victim. This always happens to me. That always happens to me. This always happens to me. So one of the gifts that I had given her is a journal. And I challenged her. I said, I want you to write about all of the good things that happened to you today. Anything that happens to you that's good today, I want you to write those things down. And the next time I see you, I want you to share those things with me. Uh, uh, and, you know, tell me about the good. And she started doing that. And then she started doing that over a period of time. And then what was actually happening with her is, first, I did a couple of things. I activated that part of the brain to actually filter and pay attention and focus on good rather than bad or negative things that happen. So because she was looking to write things in the journal to share with me, that part of the brain only looked and sought out good. So those things that she drew to her negatively before the practice or before the exercise, she ignored because she wanted to have something good to share with me at the end of the day. So that's one thing that you can put him on. First, give him a journal and say, you know, to him, write down some good things that happened to you today. You know, so that'll be his good journal. You know what I'm saying? And then have him share out. And then how did that make you feel? And then the more you get him to focus on those good things, those negative things that he typically paid attention to, he would ignore and wouldn't give energy to those things. So that would be one key exercise to use for him, or anyone for that matter who is having a challenge with victimization or victimizing themselves as something always happening to me, and that always happening to me, they're pointing to a negative thing. Does that help?
That was excellent. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Instructor, can I, may I also making a suggestion on top of that?
Oh, go ahead.
Allow him, I don't know what you did with the young lady instructor in terms of the selection of the journal, but allow him to pick out the journal himself.
Mhm.
Like what it looks like, you know, is it big, is it small, etc. So it actually gives him a connection to the journal. So it's not just something you gave him something to do. You know what I mean?
Right. Good
Mhm.
point.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Excellent point. Good. Thank you for that. Okay. Anything else on this particular? This is a key slide right here. So is there anything else that's bubbling in you,
Darren got his hand up. I'm not sure if he needed something.
Darren?
Yeah, yeah, no, I wanted to touch on this topic if I could, but
Yeah, you
you know,
can.
if you got will allow me to kind of be kind of organic with you know my feelings about it. Like this morning I started off and it's strictly to touch on, you know, our thoughts being powerful and, you know, watching my thoughts. This morning I remember riding in the car and I caught like the end of um, you know, someone talking about how meditation saved his life. And I didn't get the gist of the whole thing, but just speaking about meditation saving his life. At work a few days ago, I came across a resident, and to make a long story short, the resident's boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever, had presented a gun during the altercation. Now, I don't know if it was already out before I got there. I don't know if he brought it out to try to like, you know, scare me or something. But I just know that my thoughts afterwards just like went real dark. And you know, even after the situation is over, you know, my thoughts on it was just in a dark place, like just really wanting to just like cause some kind of damage or just eliminate altogether. And so today, this is, you know, days later, I had to go do some work at the same house. And so I'm encountering these same people that I've, you know, have these feelings and, you know, been having these thoughts about that I've constantly played over in my head, different scenarios and different things like that. But after hearing, you know, what I heard today on the radio, you know, I just had to like quickly, when I found out that I was going back to this house, just kind of do some breathing exercises to try to clear my mind and really get to a better space. And kind of and just understanding that I gave way too much negative energy to this whole, you know, this whole thing. So, you know, after I was able to do my breathing exercises and just really clear my head, you know, I went around there and, you know, everything was kind of, you know, was kind of cool. But I just imagine if I would have stayed stuck on those negative thoughts, like the slightest bit of anything could have probably, you know, set me off or, you know, caused a whole different situation. So, you know, for me, I'm trying to incorporate, you know, meditation often and just practicing, you know, controlling certain thoughts, even though it may not come as often as far as like those type of thoughts. But today, just being honest with myself, like, yeah, I was on one.
Yeah. And if I could, I think you said the word try twice, 2 or 3 times. So in that you were successful in changing your thoughts, in that you were successful in your meditation, in that you were successful in your breathing exercises. You didn't try it, you actually did it. So now more consistent incorporation of meditation would benefit you greatly. I mean, just in the example that you presented there is case in point, proof in it. So I don't know if you were on Instructor Aku in the MC chat. He invites people to this meditation every morning where we're all invited to share in our meditational experiences every morning at the beginning of the day. And that generally starts your morning off or starts your day off on a high note. So if you could join that that chat, I think everyone shares like they'll get up at like 4:45, 5 o'clock, meditate for about 15 minutes to half an hour, and then they'll share in what they gathered or they gleaned from that experience. And they kind of like they're wishing each other, or we wish each other a good day. And that generally starts the day off on a very high note. So if you could get in on that, brother, that would increase you tenfold, brother. Are you aware of that?
Yeah. I'm aware.
Okay, you're on it already?
No. I haven't been in a space to access that.
Okay, yep. But go ahead and do that. Yep. You know, some get up a little later, some get up, a little earlier, but they do put those thoughts in that chat room, and it's very beneficial. Yeah, but thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other thoughts on this particular slide? This is a pivotal one right here. Okay. Now, if I can offer in this slide, look at the portion of the brain that's in purple. If you can read that, that says vision, and where it is as it relates to language. It's like right next to each other. Very, very important. All of those parts are directly connected to each other. Okay. Let me move through on. Okay. Okay, a little bit more on this one. Could someone read that for me, please?
Emotions
Create pathways in the brain that are like files where emotions are associated with events and or experiences. This can be done intentionally. One could create an experience or an event on something that they intend to create or co-create.
Okay, let me stop right there. Just take that one in. And then you can see how all of those things can happen and how the brain is set up to actually help you create or co-create an experience. And these were the files that were how emotions can be good servants but poor masters. This is actually how an emotion can be a good servant. And I want you to walk away from this knowing that that's not just an empty cliche. It's real.
Instructor, can I share something?
Yes, you can.
This absolutely speaks to me in a myriad of ways, but most importantly, or most what stands out the most is dealing with my mother's dementia, and going with her to her neurology appointment. She has, 2 neurologists that she sees. And they shared with me that there are 2 forms of dementia. There's dementia 1, which is caused by actual physical brain deterioration. And in her scans, they didn't show any signs of any physical brain deterioration. So they deduced that she has dementia too, which is caused by depression. And the neurotransmitters that she is creating, this is speaking, if I'm not mistaken, to the neurotransmitters that the brain creates, this particular slide, and how the emotions become these chemical these chemical files or documents, so to speak, that are transmitted through these electrical impulses and neurotransmitters, and all these folds and wrinkles build in the brain. So the dementia is actually like a jumbled series of these pathways that this slide is speaking to for me. And it just really nailed home how nailed and drove home how crucial it is for us to, like you said earlier, mind our thoughts, and really be diligent. Like you have a solemn obligation. We have a solemn obligation. I have a solemn obligation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. Anybody else? This information is pivotal right here.
The path that my mother took in her life, the decisions that she made, some of the things that she said, and how I always say that she's still teaching me. She's still, even though I'm caring for her, she's still an instructor for me. And so I need to be very, very diligent on paying attention to what it is that she's modeling, even through her her dementia, and what not to do in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, Paul, question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you talking about like a clogged freeway? It's almost like her brain has become like coming through Detroit up 94 at like 3:00 in the afternoon.
It's more like her having intentions on taking 94 at 3:00 in the afternoon, and she finds herself on 96, or finds herself on 696, or finds herself on the Lodge. So her neurotransmitters don't fire the same way. She'll begin a thought or a sequence or a process, but because dementia has set in, something gets lost in translation between the thought and the actual manifestation of the thought. So she may intend to, I'll say, Mama, grab me a glass so I can get you some water. She'll pick the glass up and then put it right back down. Like the rest of the action, there's something that's not firing across that synapse. Like how when we do embracing the tree, and we have our hands, our fingers are pointed toward one another, and the energy is shooting from the thumbs across and so on. There is a disconnect between that energy, and that thumb energy will end up going to the pinky finger, or to her big toe, or to her elbow, but it won't be going where it's intended to or directed initially. So that's kind of what happens with her with dementia, that I've observed, and that the neurologists have observed.
Mm-hmm.
But all of it, I'm saying, stems from depression, according to where dementia 2 comes from, according to her neurologist. And depression is there are some physiological factors that are at play, but it begins with thought. That was the point I was getting to. Depression begins with emotion and thought.
Yes.
Oh, my fault. I don't know if somebody else was talking. All right. No, I was thinking about like this slide, like how emotions, like when it said like it creates files. That made me think of it made me think a lot, but it made me about a lot of things. But it made me think like, okay, what old files did you used to have? What things like anger, you feel me? What things used to get you angry? What things used to get you riled up? Or the slightest thing that'll cause your fuse to go off. Like, what did you used to hold on to? Like, you would go back constantly to that same file cabinet every time the same thing happened and pick out that same file and be like, all right, well, we're using this one. Like, come on, bro. Yeah. So it made me think about just how certain things don't trigger me the same, like, at all. So, you know, I've thrown that file out. How I approach things differently now, like, it made me think about a lot of things, but it definitely made me realize, like, again, we have the power to literally, like, dictate whether or not, you feel me, I even want to really experience or feel this way. Like, I remember an instructor said something like, you only feel an emotion for like 2 to 3 seconds. After that, you choosing whether or not you want to hold on to it or not. Like, it's a choice. Yes. So I was like, yeah, okay, well, you know what I'm saying? It don't really make no sense for me to be upset or hold on to any emotion that isn't serving me at that time, should I say. You know what I'm saying? Because everything plays role, but if it's not serving me, why are you holding on to it? Get rid of that file. So,
yeah,
you know, great slide.
Yes, sir.
Right, yeah.
Throw the file out, brother. Put it in the trash. Put it in the trash. Trash the file, brother. No longer needed.
Peace. I wanted to talk about this slide in relationship to I do IT during the day, working with computers and creating files, deleting files, and viruses and things like that.
Right.
And this slide is really bringing to mind how the sensory system can be hijacked, and how, well, for one, being who we are in America, where we are, this system is under constant attack through movies, television, radio, cell phone, religion, media. I mean, there's so many, every way your senses can be, some information can be plugged into those. It's like getting a virus or malware in your brain that keeps popping up. So certain thoughts will continue to pop up, just like those pop-ups, annoying, you know, if you have bad data or bad information. It gets in there in such insidious ways. One of them I just wanted to call out really quick was just the repetition of music, and how insidious that has been used against us with the repetitive rap lyrics that we sing, that, you know, for me, myself, you know, growing up in the gangster rap age, you know, I grew up where they were transitioning from singing love songs to hate songs, and how often those were repeated on the radio, in my headphones, on my TV. And that completely, it gets into your mind, it gets into that system, and it creates pop-ups where you don't even know they are.
Yeah.
This malware, and it's something to be cognizant of, that like literally our brains can be looked at. I know you're gonna get to this later about whether it's a processor or a receiver, or, you know, there's the brain is very similar to the computers that we have been creating, and our understanding has progressed exponentially. It's getting scary what these computers are able to do, and they're only at a fraction. They're at a decimal point fraction of what our minds can do.
Right.
But it's scary what this quantum computing, being able to, when you get right down to it, scientists tell you that our thoughts are faster than light. Thoughts are faster than the speed of light.
Yes.
So what we're talking about is the control of our mind. We are literally fighting for the control of ourselves and the universe. The control, are we going to have a harmonious, universe and within and without, or are we going to live in chaos, death, and destruction, for a fee? Because I want to shake my ass to some music. I have to be cognizant of what kind of sensory input I'm putting into my brain, which creates files that will have me hating women, my children, my life, my job. It's so important I apologize if I'm being verbose, but that's what this slide called to attention to me. So I wanted to share that.
That's good. That's good. That's exactly what it's designed to do. Just shake it up a little bit. Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Peace, instructor. I was
Yeah,
just
please.
soaking in where we are. I'm just looking at is this has been probably the first time I've seen all of this isolated. Like literally from the eye, to the visual cortex and the tongue to the cerebellum. I never really knew the function.
Told you, brother. There's levels to this, brother.
Yes, and then just the thalamus. How you have all of these pathways converging into one space of the brain that creates this emotion, and how really I appreciate these distinctions because we really do have the power to intentionally run interference anytime something negative or something that doesn't really serve us. We could literally choose to run interference and reprocess that data to make it something to either work for us or to choose not to continually participate, be it to look or hear or speak for that matter, and so that's amazing to even just explore how we have the ability to, I mean, once you see these distinctions, you're like, yeah, like, okay, like I can literally choose if I see something that's just gory or something that don't really serve, I just close my eyes, I just, I can run interference,
Right.
and so by doing that, you're able to can really go forward in that journey of mastering yourself as you navigate through this highly stimulating existence,
Right.
through sound, visual, and and taste, even for that matter, and even speech, and so yeah, so I really do.
Especially speech. Yeah.
I really do appreciate, just looking at that tongue and looking at the back of the brain. It's like you constantly, even if we don't run interference on ourselves, you will run interference. You'll be like, try. No, you curse, man. You curse, especially instructing North Leg, which is an awesome practice. So I guess sometimes it starts externally until you internalize it, but the goal is to internalize that practice so you can continue the journey of master yourself. So appreciate you, instructor.
Yeah, appreciate you. And to your point, of you caught it at the top, Kenyatta. A part of our role is to lead you all on a road to self-mastery. You won't get there without understanding yourself. The presentations that have been given thus far are all roads to helping you develop a deep understanding of who and what you are and what you're capable of doing. This particular presentation is wanting to take the mystery out of meditation, out of mantras, and actually show you how the brain is wired to actually serve you more than you realize, which is a very powerful proposition. That's why there's a that's why I stop on slides like this and the slides before it and say, do you actually realize or know what is being said to you? You know, I was like, I'm not just gonna fly through this and you not gain or glean how to master yourself, how to intervene in the creation of your own reality. It's not spooky. It's not something that's shrouded in mystery, as you know, people or those who make you think that it is. You know, typically, you know, especially when I'm sharing with someone outside the circle about meditation, they'll always explain it as some type of spooky practice because they lack understanding of what it actually can do for you, you know. You know, I will cut that, I'll either share or cut that conversation short with regard to, you know, their thoughts. It depends on how they come with that, whether I decide to share or not share. Because this is not something that you can just share in a few sentences. This is something, as part 3 of this presentation says, this is not something that you just glean over or gloss over. As grandmasters make the statement, emotions are poor servants. Emotions are good servants, but poor masters. And just tearing that apart and say, wow, how is that so? And we say it, and we've shared that for years, but I wanted to put at the forefront that that is an absolute true statement, and which can be summoned in the brain if we know how to use it. So at the top of this, I said, how long have you had your brain, and how much do you know about it? And I've shared presentations with teachers all over this state and all over the country, as a matter of fact. And as Kenyatta has stated, man, you have teachers that don't know this. So a part of my consultant work with Grand Valley is bringing this to the forefront of a teacher's mind and how they're working with students, children specifically. So yeah, these slides are pivotal if you're taking it in. So please take notes. Keith is Instructor North. Could you tell me what my time looks like now?
Yeah, we got 18 minutes left.
Okay, 18 minutes. Okay, thank you, sir. So any more on this particular slide before I go on? Because I don't want to leave this or these last 2 slides that have been shown to you without, you know, you getting what you need to get from these.
I noticed that there's the different areas, and I guess each is tied to emotions. So there's been times when I've been overwhelmed with thoughts that I couldn't sleep, thoughts about relatives being alcoholics, thoughts about my daughter, taking her to school. My daughter's leaving them at school if somebody's touching on them, and what if somebody breaking my house? Just all kind of things. And I realized as I learned that each of these things, learn about each of these things, it kind of like, okay, I don't need to think about that. I don't, that I can't change those things. So releasing each of them one at a time, that allowed me to get a handle on myself, because I was not able to sleep at night, just worrying about things going on in the world. And as I've gotten older, in my 55 years plus 9 months, the more that I learn is fascinating. It's just, you learn to control your actions and what you do think, and what experiences, to change your experiences. And I have used that for myself, and I just why couldn't we learn this stuff in school?
It's a good reason why.
Yeah, because we learned it in school, but it wasn't tied to us as individuals and connecting us to the universe and our power and all of that good stuff. And I believe that our future schools should start doing this. We homeschools or whatever. And I appreciate you doing this, because in a sense, this is schooling.
Yes.
And I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Queen. Thank you. I appreciate you. There is a reason that this is not taught in schools. One of the reasons is it will take the chain or the chains off your mind. It will literally free you. And you won't be a slave to other stuff, right? As Hero alluded to earlier, talking about, how the brain is hijacked, that there are our brains are the most assaulted organ that we have. This organ is under constant attack every day, 24/7. Even when you go to put gas in your car, as soon as you pay for the gas, a television show comes on. And immediately your thoughts are under assault. What you can buy, what you can do, what you should be thinking about, under constant attack, which we're going to get more into later. I did not think I would be able to get through part 3 because because of the density here. So I say, man, if I make it through part 3, I'll be doing really good, I'll be doing well. But I would rather be thorough in going through this piece than rush through it, because I really want you to understand how important this organ actually is and how you can actually shift your entire reality. So, Instructor North, how much time do I have?
Yeah, I was gonna say, he said 18 at 42, and it's 49, you got 11.
Okay.
You know that somebody called right at the exact moment you asked.
Okay. So I'm going to stop right here and ask if you have any comments, commentary, any further concerns or any thoughts about what has been introduced to you thus far.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Instructor Vaughn. Thank you. It was a very valuable lesson. It was just chock full of amazing things. I took a lot from it, but what really stood out was, the computer. You asked the question, was it first you asked the question, how long have you had your brain, and what do you know about your brain? And I thought, wow, I thought about the last lecture, and I thought about us, discussing that the brain actually is the first thing that's developed. And so I thought, well, perhaps it would be, how long has the brain had us? Because I'm just like, wait, that means that the brain has been around longer than we have ourselves, our feet, our everything, even the head and the skull that encases the brain, it's been around longer. So that really was something that really stood out. And I thought how powerful is that our brain is before us, like our mind, so that, and then also, I think it was Theo who spoke about thoughts, not knowing where thoughts come from and everything. And so that, if we think of our brain being thoughts and our thought being from our brain, it's like our brain has been here longer than us and will be here longer after us, in a sense. As far as thoughts go. And then another thing was the computer and the antenna. And you mentioned that, like, what is it? Is it a, computer or an antenna, or is it both? And I would agree with the final, which is both, because that's how they invented antennas, and that's how they invented computers, because they've invented them off of that. We are the design for those things. We are the design for most things, is what I feel. And finally, one that is really close to me, because people in my family and my own experience, and starting with my father, as far as like the brain and depression and other things, what Paul spoke of, it being, there's two types of dementia, which are the one that's obviously that's physical, that's actually in the brain, something happening. And then there's something that's basically like emotional. And that I have seen with myself, had the experience with myself, and then seen with my siblings, like people having these moments where the brain, I feel like basically depression, ADD, all these different things that are happening with the brain is basically, I feel like part of a not a malfunction, but part of the process of our brains evolving. And so it's just, reorganizing itself on and expanding itself on processing different things that it is experiencing, whether it's a trauma, whether it's fear, whether it is it could be anything, different things. It could be just simply everyday life with, like you said, the constant attack that is on our brains. And so our brains are constantly like these computers, these supercomputers, quote unquote, that are rewiring themselves to actually protect themselves and to to protect themselves and to heal themselves. Yeah, I could go on and on, but anyways, I just my father was a complete, his brain was vast, but he struggled with schizophrenia and bipolar. And I felt like it's not really, quote unquote, this disease as much as it's something where people, like if those people had meditation, if those people had mantra, if those people had this type of information, they would be able to tap in and rewire themselves to overcome those situations, because I was, quote unquote, diagnosed with bipolar, but I moved through life without medication and without different things. And I just eat differently and I do different things to grow my brain. I don't think that it's, quote unquote, this thing that what people think it is. I think that they don't even know enough about the brain to know what's really happening when those things are happening, because people actually are at really high brain waves when they are in those conditions and in those states. So I could go on, but I'm going to let other people talk. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Instructor, let me just say this one quick thing real quick. So full. Let me just get this in here real quick so that hopefully somebody else can kind of get in and share some ideas. But if I had to just sum up, or just one of my takeaways is that you mentioned how just looking at the brain and looking at the things that impact the psyche and the emotions, which ultimately goes back to just the basic thought and how our brain is under constant attack. And it just sort of got me thinking about just outside of the skull, looking at the hair, as a magnetic tool or antennas that pick up different frequencies that also impact our thoughts and our psyche and our thinking. And so thinking about that, in addition to, I've been listening to this book called The Science of Getting Rich. And so for anybody, you all should check it out. It really doesn't really talk a whole lot about money, so to speak, but just more or less about how you're able to basically cause things to come into existence by shifting your thinking and shifting your thoughts. And the three basic things that it just constantly reiterates is that how everything in the universe at its organic state goes back to this thinking stuff, as they call it, this thinking stuff or spirit, but they don't say spirit, they just call spirit thinking stuff. And how this formless thinking stuff, a thought inside this formless thinking stuff produces things that is imaged within the thought. So when the thought creates an image inside of it and impresses it on this formlessness, this formless thinking stuff, things come into existence. And how if you just block everything out and you just understand that and just really understand the science and the I feel like truth seems so cliche, but you just really understand that, then there isn't anything you can't bring into existence, because the formlessness must image what's inside the thought. And so going back to your lecture, how if you can really master these channels and protect that thalamus by really watching what you see, what you speak, what you say, what you hear, and you really got that thalamus really imaging the thoughts of what it is that you want out of your life, you are literally eternal. You are literally God in the flesh, So I just wanted to say that. Thank you, instructor.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else hasn't shared, wants to share?
I got something real quick. I noticed earlier how you and Hero mentioned it. First, you said, how a watch is used to tell time. And you had went on to talk about how the organs in our brain about vision and language are right next to each other. So our watches are used to tell time, literally. So what we see, that's how we communicate our experience, or how we experience time. So I found that interesting. And also when you went on about the organs, the reticular system and the fascicular system, I went back to my notes I've been taking about the internal organs in our adrenal system. So our adrenals houses our fight or flight response, and it actually houses a reticular system and fascicular system too. So the same two organs that correspond in our brain. And actually, when we experience stress, what happens in our vascular system is that it releases extra glycerin, and that results in extra fat deposits. And also, the stress reduces our immune system, and it's the reason why a lot of people in the Black community get sick. And it also hollows our bones. So that's the reason why when people get older, as they experience more stress, they get thinner and everything if they don't use meditation. So it just goes back to that all roads lead to meditation. And that was pretty deep.
Yes, all roads lead to meditation. Yes, they do. Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing.
Right.
All right. Anybody else?
I wanted to peace everybody. I wanted to share about like when we were talking about, or how you shared that our thoughts pretty much become reality, and the things that we think about ultimately shape the way that we experience the world. I think the first time I thought about that was a few years ago, and somebody was like, I used to hear people like, oh, I'm broke, I don't have any money. And that's just something common. Like, even you don't really have $0 when you say that, but constantly saying I'm broke, as opposed to saying something like, oh, I don't have as much money as I would like to have right now. But even that, I think it's important to be specific with the things that we think, even if we don't think something bad. I think the universe, like everything is pretty much literal. So if you say something like, I don't know, I want something like I'm bored, everything is so boring or something. I'm struggling to think of an example, but basically what I'm saying is when we have our thoughts, we have to be as specific as possible. It's not enough to just not say something bad, but when we leave it to be vague, it can still be like up for interpretation when we literally have the power to create our reality. I just wanted to bring up the point of how important it is to be mindful of, like, if you have the power to control your reality and things that you experience, then why don't you say exactly what you want and exactly what you mean, as opposed to just staying away from saying something bad. So that's what I was thinking about when you shared that.
Wow. Good stuff.
Mm.
Y'all, see, y'all rushing ahead of my presentation. Y'all already into like 3-4 slides up. So that's good stuff. Yes, that's good. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Anyone else? We're at our 10 o'clock hour, so is anyone else?
Peace, instructor. I want to share what I got out today for exit. But when you was talking about the power of the thoughts, that I found that very interesting because I always came across a lot of intellectual elders in my life, and they used to tell me like, watch what you say, because words will come back and hunt you, or they'd tell me like words are spells. So just thinking about what you was just talking about, you know, you got to really be careful, like Instructor Ray was saying, about what you say, because you putting that negative energy on yourself. So if you want to, if you want positive things out of life, you should speak positive upon yourself, and because it's a reflection, especially a mirror. That was very interesting to me as well. I didn't get to catch the first part because my principal had called me missed the beginning of the lecture, so I have to go back and watch the beginning. But there's a lot of knowledge that I learned, especially dealing with the brain, and I'm thankful for this lesson, because since I'm going to be teaching science.
Oh yeah, science teacher.
Yeah, I can add this within the lesson plans.
You sure can.
So thank you, instructor.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yes. Instructors, you have anything?
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Phenomenal. Very rich, brother.
Oh, brother. Just stop it, brother. Just stop it. I'm just a vehicle, brother. That's all. It's just coming through, brother. That's it.
Downloads. Well, you know, my biggest takeaway was just imbalanced thought and emotion, and its diseased effect on the mind and body. You know, just that hinges upon what Brother Paul and Salama was speaking about earlier. You know, imbalanced emotions being the biggest cause of human disease, which also equates to energy imbalance as well as a decoding imbalance in the brain. So, you know, what we take in and allow the brain to decode, you know, just to sum it up, you know, possibilities and probabilities are decoded by the brain. In other words, thought. So not the brain, but in essence, decoded by thought. So gotta be careful and filter, you know, what we take in. So that's all I have, brother. Looking forward to this week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you.
Peace, everybody. Just real quick, powerful presentation. I am, I guess, blown away by the implications of this. The implication is of all the information that's been presented. So with that being said, what is the human potential? So I'm just so excited to see the next. I'm imagining based on the last 2 weeks, we got another 4 weeks of this. This foundation is thick.
This foundation is thick, baby.
Oh boy. I'm also reminded of a interview video I watched, and this guy was, I can't recall his name. I'll share it in the chat. I can't recall his name, but he is a consultant to college and professional athletic teams on how to improve performance. And to make a very long story short, because the time, especially in college, because the time they have with the the players is so short, they use these same techniques you were talking about, but that all they did to improve performance was to have them stop speaking negative thoughts. They could think them, but they couldn't speak them. That's all they did. Just because the expanse of what you're presenting is so massive, they couldn't teach that, and they only have the students a short time, and they're college, they're student athletes.
Right.
So their technique or their approach was to only have them to stop speaking negative thoughts. And there was a marked improvement. And then there's a whole science behind this that I won't get into. I'll just share the video. But yeah, powerful presentation, brother.
Thank you, brother. I'm just a vehicle, brother. I'm just a vehicle, brother. It's just coming through.
Oh, brother, you must be a Ferrari or something, brother, huh?
Thank you, brother. Yes, sir.
All right, family.
All right. Well, with that, if there's no other commentary, brother, we're going to end on what the mighty instructor Cedric has left us with. Again, I would have been surprised if I were able to get through part 3. Like I said, I knew this part was going to be dense because I'm talking about the brain, making some comparisons with language that's being used. Also putting it out there, is the brain a supercomputer? Is the brain an antenna, or is it both? There's still some more to come on that. But again, laying the foundation, because we're still talking about mantras and using mantras as a tool for the development of the mind. However, I wanted there to be some foundational groundwork laid on the brain and how the brain actually processes language. Because once we get into creating mantras, developing mantras, then with this understanding of how the brain works, now you can use the tool of a mantra to actually transform your current reality. And that's what this is about. Again, as instructor Cedric has alluded to, there are mountains of research on this subject alone. And as instructor Cedric also said, that just in putting the presentation together, it's so much that you can put in here, and you have to decide what to put in, what to take out, and it's just so much that again, I would have been perplexed if I had gotten through all of part 3. I still have some, so I'm going to continue with this, continue with part 3. Again, I do intend this to be an interactive class. I do want you to take notes. I am going to refer to, axioms that we've had before, so that you can make sense of what is being offered to us. And the one I use here, emotions are good servants but poor masters. How does that actually take play in the development of your brain? You know, how does that make sense now? And there is an answer that makes sense once you develop these deep understandings of what's actually being said to you. And this little statement right here, there is so much that is being said to you. So I just wanted to lay that foundational work here to say there's a lot more to this statement than what you thought. So there is more. Again, I will share, hopefully get through part 3 next week. Hopefully I'm hopeful that you're getting a lot out of this. Again, I'm encouraging you for full participation, and please take notes. Take notes so that this will make sense to you. All right, that's all I have, family. I will see, if there's nothing else, I will see you next week, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you, instructor. Peace and love, family.
Peace.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace and love, everyone.
Family.
Peace and love, y'all. Peace.
Peace, love y'all.
Peace. Love
See
you
y'all
guys.
tomorrow.
Peace and power.